The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. One of the scribes came to Jesus and asked him, "Which is the first of all the commandments?" Jesus replied, "The first is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." The scribe said to him, "Well said, teacher. You are right in saying, He is one, and there is no other than He, and to love Him with all your heart, with all your understanding, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is worth more than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." And when Jesus saw that he answered with understanding, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And no one dared to ask him any more questions. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
When I was teaching, I taught juniors for many years, and the second semester we'd have moral theology. And usually when we got into the section on the Ten Commandments, the students would, and this is what they sounded like, of course, they would say, "Father, how come there's so many rules and regulations in the church? Everything we do is a sin." And or something like that. And so what I gently remind them is when we started moral theology, the first thing we talk about in moral theology is happiness and the fulfillment of the human person. And the second thing that we talked about was love, and how love is the fulfillment of the human person, that we are created by love for love so that we can be happy in this world. And so the moral life, the rules and the regulations that we have only comes after that, because they just tell us how to live in right relationship with one another. So if you look at all the Ten Commandments, then you see that, the first three deal with how do you love God? And then the next seven, how you love one another. And so I was thinking about this morning as we are reading this gospel about which is the greatest of all the commandments. And what does Jesus say? The greatest commandment is the commandment of love. Here, love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. These are the greatest two. And everything else flows from these two commandments. And so, because if we live in right relationship with God, and if we live in right relationship with one another, that's when we will be happy in this world, and that's when we'll be fulfilled. But what sin says is that I've got to take care of me. I got to have me fulfilled. But the more that we try to consume, the more that we try to have, the emptier that we become. And so that's something for us to think about. How do we love God more? How do we love our neighbor more? And, obviously through that life of prayer is that loving God, and then our neighbor. There's different ways, even if it's maybe giving somebody a call, talking to somebody, we may be limited in our ability to get out, but there's still ways to make contact with other people. And when we can show them that love, it is then that we can truly have our heart filled with the love of God and with the love of our neighbor.